Hi, everybody. It's Mike Lyons with Seasoned Advice HR, and welcome to Healthcare Leadership Live. Today I'm going to skip the formal intro, and we're just going to jump into our topic today, which is hiring a supervisor in your clinic. And this is a key moment that every clinic deals with. If you're growing, you're going to be adding a supervisor. If you have a supervisor, they probably won't last forever. And so you'll have to replace them at some point. So eventually, every clinic will have to hire some kind of a manager. Unless I guess you're just a one doctor and you're going to manage everything yourself, in which case your hands are probably pretty full and you're probably not maximizing your time. You could be seeing patients when you're dealing with management stuff. That's a whole other question. So, not really talking about that situation today. Hiring a manager is what we're talking about. And now, before we get going here, I just want to say that I'm super excited that I'm going to be speaking at the American Academy of Ophthalmic Executives in Orlando in October. So, if you're in ophthalmology, and a lot of y'all are, please come check me out. I'll be easy to find on day one. Look for Mike Lyons in the main session. Um, I would love to see you there. That's where I'll be, and I'll be excited to meet you. So anyway, we're talking about hiring manager. So how do you do that? Well, first you have to decide what type of manager do you want. What is this job description? And if you're a small office, this is going to be a big question because maybe this is the first time you've hired for this role, or maybe you've only hired one person and it's time to replace that person. And things have probably changed, and you may not even have a job description. And so, a job description is really important. Having a clear description of what you're looking for is going to do two things. It's going to help applicants know what in the heck they're getting into, and is this a fit for me or not, which is pretty darn important. And the second thing it's going to do is it's going to help you figure out what you're looking for. It's also going to help once you've hired that person. It's going to help you know if they're on track or not with the plan that you've written down. That's their position description. And so the position description or the job description is really important. And so you want to do some advanced thinking about that and get the job title right. That's important. People look at job titles. You choose the wrong title and you're going to get the wrong applicant. It could be you maybe if you pick a title that's too low level sounding, you're going to get low level applicants. If you choose a title that's too high level sounding, you're going to get high level applicants. And if it's not dialed in with what you want, it could be a waste of time. It could be a waste of time. And so I do have a blog post here about hiring supervisors, and I talk about some of this in there. If you go to seasoned-advice.com/blog, you can read that there. But I'm gonna try to talk a little bit more detail here in this podcast, or maybe hit some different points. Um, but get the title right. Understand what the level is that you're trying to hire for. And if you're not sure what title to use, you can go on Google, Indeed, and look for comparable jobs and see what kind of titles they're using. Or talk to your other practice leaders that you know in your network and ask them, hey, what would you call this job? Is it a team lead? Is it a supervisor? Is it a manager? You want to get that. You want to get that right because you don't want to go down the wrong road. Also, in your job description, you want to be very clear about what the duties and responsibilities are, but you don't want to go overboard. You don't want to list 500 different duties. You want to have a fairly concise job description that still encompasses everything that that's going to be needed to be done. So first is defining the job. Now, in the job description, you're not going to put everything. So you need to have a sort of a hidden job description, in my opinion, which describes what is it I'm looking for here. What are the qualities and the characteristics that I'm looking for? And yeah, sometimes you do put some of that stuff in the job description, but I think there are going to be some details behind the scenes, right, to help you think about what you're looking for. And this may be, um, what kind of a culture fit am I looking for? And what kind of traits, what kind of experience is ideal, right? So you can beef up whatever's in the job description and sort of expound on it for your own purposes. And this is the kind of information that's going to help guide you to find who is like your ideal fit. And actually, you might even consider, and I would recommend that you get out a little piece of paper and you write down let me just think about an ideal fit person. This much experience or this kind of knowledge or these kind of interpersonal traits. And I would probably even rank them or maybe put them in two buckets: the need to have and then nice to have. And be really clear with yourself. What is a need to have and what is a nice to have? So that way, when you're interviewing people, you can differentiate. You can differentiate, and you can also, it will help shape the kind of questions you ask and how you go about your hiring process. So this is all part of the kind of the pre-work of hiring a supervisor that you need to go through. You can't just slap up a job description on the internet without doing your pre-work. That would be a big mistake. Okay, so you've got a job description, you've got kind of your hidden job description, and you've thought about what your need to have and your nice to have. Another thing you need to do your pre-work on, I think about your pay. What is the pay range that you're willing to offer? What is the pay range that you need to offer? Are you going to do some kind of bonus in there? You need to know, because when you're talking to a supervisor candidate, they're going to want to know, well, what is the pay range here? In some states, you even have to put the pay range in the job posting. Like if you're in Colorado, and probably some other states, you're going to have to put your pay range. And so you need to know. And you look dumb if you put some really huge pay range, and people are going to be like, okay, I see what they're doing here. They're gonna jack me around a little bit. So you want to have a realistic pay range, and you're going to have to do a little bit of research into comparable pay ranges. And there are techniques that I would recommend to follow for that. And you can get a lot of this information for free. There are some paid services out there to do compensation research. And it's worth it if you have a big enough practice, I think, to invest in these services. But you're going to need to do your research. And you can get pretty good data for free, pretty good. But it's always better to have more data sources when it comes to pay. So you need to know what is it you're willing to pay? What is it you're going to pay? Come up with some questions and an interview selection process that is going to help you determine if you're talking to your ideal candidate or not. Okay, so that's another thing you need to do ahead of time is, what is my interview process? What questions am I going to ask of this person? To get at the question of, is this a person I even want to continue talking to? Or is this a potential great fit for me? Okay, so already there's a ton of advanced work here. Something you need to be thinking about again in advance, and you may not have thought of this. This is going back to your ideal traits in your maybe need to have. So that you got your need to have and your sort of fantasy traits. I'm going to tell you right now on your need to have traits for a supervisor or even a team lead all the way up to CEO, you need to have good interpersonal skills. That's number one. I don't really care how much they know about using an OCT or dermatology lingo or orthopedic billing codes and stuff like that. If they don't have people skills, I mean strong people skills, that is not a person you want to hire. So number one is you need to have good emotional intelligence and good people skills. Can they manage their emotions? Can they manage the emotions of others? Can they recognize their own emotions and recognize the emotions of others? Those are kind of the four quadrants, pillars of emotional intelligence. And so they need to have that. They need to have those skills. Okay. And yeah, they need to understand, depending on the level, they need to have certain technical knowledge. And you're going to get at that in the selection process. But most important is that emotional skill because a supervisor is trying to get productivity from the employees, from the medical assistants, from the front desk. And if the only way to do that is with your interpersonal skill, you know, it's going to be a long time before we have AI supervisors doing this stuff, and and it would be questionable how effective they are. So it's going to be human to human, emotional relationships that are at issue here. Can they show appreciation? Can they build excitement, encouragement? Can they show gratitude? Can they handle sensitive issues with empathy? Those are skills you have to have as a supervisor. All the work is being done through other people when you're a leader. And so can you pull those strings in an empathic, caring, motivational way, yet still have high standards? You can't just be touchy feely, but not be able to set boundaries and make clear requests and give constructive feedback. Those are things that require emotional intelligence. And so you've got to select your manager with those skills. So you're going to be looking for emotional intelligence along with technical skill and understand the level of technical skill that you need. Yes, you need some in a supervisor, but do you need true mastery of all levels? No. That manager is going to be managing people more than likely who know things that they don't know at all, right? Especially in a healthcare clinic, you're going to be managing front desk, you're going to be managing medical technicians, you're going to be managing billing, insurance verification, maybe research staff. That's a lot. That's a diverse array of employees they're going to be managing. And they can't possibly be masters of all that. And so recognize what is going to be most important and be ready to compromise because you're going to want all those skills, but they're just not going to likely have all that. And so that's where the interpersonal skills come in is I can manage someone that doesn't um where I don't know their domain of knowledge. I can manage a clinical research coordinator or a front desk specialist if I've never done it. That's totally possible. I might have to be curious, I might have to be empathic, I might have to be a visionary, I might have to be very relational to build that relationship with that person, but I can totally manage them. So that's where those emotional intelligence skills come in. That's the skeleton key that unlocks everything is the emotional intelligence. Okay, so that's important. I could talk about that for a whole hour, but I'm not going to because I got to hit on everything here today. um, let's see here. You've got to make sure you hire at the right time. Don't hire too early for a manager, and this is probably not the problem you're dealing with. You're probably hiring too late. You're probably hiring a manager too late. You're overwhelmed. You're burnout. I need a manager now because I waited too long to hire a manager. So if you're in that situation, don't rush. Don't rush the decision. If you've done your pre-work, then you will probably be able to hire faster than a clinic that doesn't do their pre-work. If you haven't done your pre-work, you're going to be talking to 100 people. I don't know, like, is this the right person? And then you're more likely to make a mistake, and then you're going to have to let them go or they're going to quit. So do that pre-work, but don't rush. Don't rush the process, um, because you don't want to make a mistake. You don't want to make a mistake. Um, Spend enough time to get to know that person. I personally am a fan of having multiple people talk to a managerial candidate, and that includes your staff. If there's a person on the team who's really awesome, they're a strong medical assistant, give them an opportunity to interview the potential supervisor. See what they think. Get another pair of eyeballs on that person. It's smart to have multiple people talk to a supervisor candidate because different people have different perspectives. But it's also nice to have confirmation. If you have two or three people say, "Yeah, I think this person is great." Now, those two or three people also need to kind of be in on your pre work a little bit, because if you have a medical assistant interview a supervisor, but they don't know anything about the pre work, you haven't talked to them about the vision and the goals and what it takes to be a good supervisor, they may not have good feedback for you after doing it. They may say, "Oh man, she was so nice. I loved her. She'd be great." And then every person they talk to, it'll be the same thing. "Oh, I love her. She's so nice." That's not good feedback. You want critical feedback. You want that person to have a rubric or a structure by which to evaluate candidates, right? So bring them into your pre-work. Say, "You know what? I'm looking for emotional intelligence and I really want this skill. This skill is nice, but it's not super vital. Um, and these are some of the questions I think I want to get at. These are the goals I have," right? So let them into your pre-work a little bit so that they're not just having this sort of fluffy conversation. Side benefit is that that medical assistant is going to get some of a vision into how you think, and that's going to help that medical assistant maybe be considered for a supervisor in the future. Okay. That's developing that person. They're getting to interview them. They're getting some time with you about how you think about management. What a valuable opportunity. Another side note here is you've got people internally maybe that should be considered. And I want you to interview those people. Even if you're like, I'm never going to hire Sally because she is not the right person or she's not ready. Well, you know what? First of all, maybe she is ready and you don't realize it. Number two, maybe she's not ready, but interviewing her is going to give her some development. She's going to realize how far she is from being ready. Or maybe she's just going to get some reps interviewing and answering tough questions from you if you're the doctor or if you're the practice administrator or whatever. So definitely give those internal people a shot if they want to. And it gives the perception and the true perception that we want to grow people. We want to give you a shot at growing. So I really encourage you to not short shrift your staff, your internal staff, when you're hiring. Be err on the side of giving them a chance, is what I would say. In a manager opening, hiring a new manager scenario, give them a crack at it. Give them a crack at it. They might surprise you. They might surprise you. Um, okay. Next thing with hiring a manager, you have got to onboard them well, because if it's a person you're promoting from within or someone coming from without, there's some major doo doo that you could step in as part of this process. If it's an internal person, they might have a difficulty transitioning from technician to manager or insurance verification to manager. They may not be able to let go of those relationships, or they may get stuck in doing the work too much. That's a problem that could arise, and it probably will arise. Okay, if someone's coming from the outside, the big pitfall there is adjusting to your culture, adjusting to how you do things. There's a huge learning curve. They've got to not only learn how you do things and the technical stuff, but they've got to adjust to the culture. They've got to adjust to a new manager. They've got to adjust to new doctors. I mean, there's so much with hiring from the outside that you have to acclimate to. And that's why a lot of businesses try to promote from, there's a lot of advantages to promoting from within if you can. But if you're hiring from outside, boy, onboarding is huge. Don't give this, don't short shrift that. You've got to spend a lot of time helping them build relationships, helping them understand how you think. What's important here? Why is it important? Why do we do things the way we do? Help them realize the pace of work that you work at. Maybe it's a fast pace. Maybe they need to slow their roll and they're used to coming from a business that works really fast. Maybe they're used to a business where there's a lot of sales, like we're selling LASIK procedure, we're selling dermatology, we're selling products, we're selling orthodontics, whatever. And maybe in your practice, there really isn't that discretionary revenue and it's just really medical revenue. And we're not trying to push things on anybody. And we don't like that. And so that could be a big adjustment for someone who's used to a more sales driven atmosphere. That's an adjustment. So you got to think about that. What kind of culture adjustment are we making here? And don't rush to come to a conclusion that, oh, you know what, I made a bad hire, because chances are you haven't spent enough time onboarding and acclimating that person. And think of how much time and energy you're going to waste if you move on from a candidate and you haven't spent time really acclimating them, because you did spend so much time hiring them. Don't think, oh, I need to move, hire slow, fire fast is a dangerous thing, is a dangerous statement to put your faith in, because maybe firing fast is not a good idea. Maybe you haven't onboarded effectively. Now, there are some things that are red flags, and yeah, if there's a red flag, yes, fire fast, sure. They're not showing up to work or they have really bad attitude. Yeah, you need to move on quickly on stuff like that. Those are traits that probably aren't going to change. But you need to give feedback. You need to give support. That's part of onboarding, giving feedback. We're course correcting. We're driving down the road and we start to veer off the road. Hey, I'm going to nudge you back onto the road a little bit. You're going over this way. Up. I'm going to nudge you back on the road. Make sure you're doing that stuff. Okay. And you're checking in with your team to see, hey, how's it going? How's Sally doing in her new manager role? And take that with a grain of salt, but definitely, be listening to your team when it comes to their feedback. Last thing I want to talk about is delegating and kind of getting out of their way. This is an area where you may struggle, especially if you're a doctor and you've never had a manager before. Man, you're not going to want to let go, right? Or you are a small office and you've never had this manager. This is a new role. You're not going to want to let go. It's going to be hard to delegate. You're going to make delegation mistakes. That's okay. You're going to fail to delegate, or you're maybe going to delegate too much, and then the person kind of runs off and does things you don't agree with. All of that is normal, but you have to be humble enough as a CEO, practice administrator, doctor to know that you're going to make that mistake and acknowledge that, oops, this is my mistake. I didn't communicate well enough. If you just blame the new hire, you're going to be in a bad situation. Don't blame them. Blame yourself for bad delegation. Were you clear enough? Were you descriptive enough? Did you tell them how much latitude they have? Were you really clear about, okay, I want you to just go ahead and run with this. This, I want you to think about it and come back to me with recommendations. This issue, I'm gonna make the decision, you know. So like give them clear boundaries on different things, okay? And give them clear context for how you want things done and how things should be done. Um, in the military, I think they call this the commander's intent. This is how I want you to do it. But at the end of the day, my intention is to have really happy patients. Okay. I want patients to be really happy and content with their experience. Um, and I need to make sure we collect payment and get them moving through the clinic, but I want them to be happy. Okay. So that's your intent. If everything goes to heck in a handbasket, you figure out how to make the patient happy, and then at the end of the day, we'll tweak it later. Okay, so be clear about your intent and why you want things done the way you want them done, and you're going to have to let go about how they do it. Also, you hired this person for a reason. You hired them because they have good ideas, because they have insight that you don't have. And you need to realize that they will have insight that you don't have, because they are going to be closer to the problem than you are. If you're a doctor, the office manager is going to be hearing from the staff. They're going to be hearing from the patient. They're going to be hearing things that you, as the doctor or the practice administrator, are not hearing. And so realize and respect that. Let them cook, as the kids might say. Let them cook. Let them create, let them solve problems. Yeah, you want to give some guidance and stuff, but you do what you do best, which is being a doctor or leading the practice from a high level. Give them some opportunity to think for themselves, or else this person is going to get frustrated, right? They're going to get frustrated with lack of latitude. People don't want a micromanager. They want to have latitude, right? And that's going to be an ongoing debate or discussion, let's say, between the manager and you. If you're the one hiring the manager, how much latitude do they have? And obviously, at first, there's going to be less latitude, and you're going to give trust over time. But you need to be clear about what you want, why you want it, and what the boundaries are about what you're delegating. So that's a huge element. So make sure that when you hire a manager, you do these things effectively, and you're going to waste less money on turnover, because hiring a manager is expensive. Making a hiring mistake is a very expensive proposition in a manager, because that manager influences your staff and influences your procedures and influences your patients. And so making a mistake, doesn't look good. And your staff is going to be like, yep, Sally didn't last very long, and they're going to start to wonder what's going on. And they're going to have whiplash from different managers coming in and out of the business. I've seen that happen. And believe me, that sets you back as a practice, because you start to lose trust of the staff, and they start to think, oh, here comes another supervisor. See how long they last. You don't want to do that. You do not want to do that. If you want some help with any of that stuff, that's what I do. I'm an HR services provider. I focus on healthcare. Reach out to me at seasoned-advice.com. I'll put some comments in the show notes. I really hope you found this helpful. That's what I like to do, is provide helpful information. If you found it helpful, please let me know. Tell me some kind of way. Say, hey, man, I love the show. I love the content. I appreciate it. That would make me feel so good and so grateful that I'm making a contribution for you out there. And please follow this show. If you're listening on the podcast, Apple, Spotify, whatever, subscribe, follow, like. That helps me to know I'm on track with this content. And if you have an idea for something you want to hear me talk about, let me know that as well. Anyway, this is Healthcare Leadership Live. I've had a bunch of other shows out there. I'd love for you to check those out. We've talked with Ben Seals recently from Thomas Eye Group. Dr. Blake Hampton was on the show not that long ago. He's an ophthalmologist in North Carolina. And I've got some other really awesome people from ophthalmology that I'll be talking to very soon. And so we'll be releasing those shows soon. So anyway, my name is Mike from Healthcare Leadership Live, and go out there and lead with confidence.